All right, YouTube's going up. All right, guys. Now we're actually going to start recording. See, none of this stuff happens beforehand. Like, we all have to do it all at once, and it takes a minute to get going. Now that we're live, now that we're doing live all the time, it takes a minute to go here. So, and our tables are really full right now of stuff. If you notice, we are.
I mean, a little
bit. We're a little bit better lit. You're a little dark still.
Is it my hat?
I don't know if it's your hat. Turn it backwards. Be a gangster. There we go. It's better than it was, but we're still dealing with some shadows.
I can't be live in the world doing that. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to turn my... Well, that's worse, I think.
That would have been something I would have done years ago. But
years and years ago?
I'm going to do it now.
So, okay.
How about now?
That is right on your face. Yeah. Lighting is a real pain. We need Mandy and Danny again.
Is that good?
Let's see. That's better. Good enough. All right. We're actually going to... That's even worse. Where were you on the night of... da-da-da-da-da-da? So,
Oh, it's... For a minute, I thought I was pulling it off the table. It just turns.
Okay. All right. Actually going to start the actual recording now. Here we go. Good afternoon, almost evening, daylight savings, whatever, everybody. This is Gather the Nerds, episode 79. I'm Cav, that's Nick.
What's up?
We're messing with lamps, trying to get this whole lighting
lamp.
thing right. I love lamp. Trying to get this whole lighting thing right. We need Mandy and Danny again, or we need more lumens is really what we need. We need more lumens.
Is that worse? Better? Better, worse?
Worse. Go back to plan A. Shoot up. So, good enough.
All right.
So we're still messing with this, but you're not nearly in the shadows as you were last time.
I am the shadows.
You are the shadows. So, yeah, episode 79. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. So I'm watching the feed right now.
Is that weird to watch yourself as you're like doing something?
A little bit, because sometimes what I'll do is I'll catch myself, I like scratch my ear, and then watch the video and see how long it takes.
Oh, jeez.
So there is a bit of a delay there, but you know it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so normal agenda full of randomness today. We were talking last week about the whole Instagram following thing.
Yep.
See, like in the video, you're now laughing at something, and I'm not saying anything funny. So
Okay.
So we're talking about the whole Instagram follow thing because one of the things that's tough being a media outlet as we are is getting media credentials for some of the bigger places requires a certain following, a certain whatever, and it takes. But growing that organically is difficult.
It's proving very difficult.
It's proving very difficult. However, you know, we talked about the buying followers and stuff like that. But there's a new thing that I learned about this week as I was doing some research, which is basically Instagram automation, which is almost like a follow for follow thing.
Right.
So you set up hashtags. If somebody hashtags something, hashtag podcast, hashtag comics, hashtag Batman, instantly, boom, follow. And in return, like you see this follow for follow thing happen, and it grows very quickly. And you're not basically, it's better than buying followers because it's not a whole bunch of spam. Like it's legit people.
Yeah.
They said the only downside to it is that basically it fills your feed with any number of things, which you know we don't like. Our feed is more for putting stuff out, not ingesting things, not looking for things. So that doesn't really affect us that much. So it's something I think we may look at more closely going on that I feel is, even though the experiment is exciting, it leans more towards on the sides of legitimacy than buying followers, mainly because it's, you know, it's like I said, it's a follow for follow thing. And so,
you know, there's a hashtag that says follow for follow. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, but we want to follow and have people follow that are, you know, of the same, I don't know, kind of interests and things like that. And so,
so we don't want to spam people. I mean, we don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, no, we're not going to be that guy. That's not how we're going to do this. So, but yeah, so more on that as we continue on. Like I said, our goal is to be incredibly transparent about what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And I think that will, that will hopefully help us, because you're not talking about a bunch of bots and stuff like that. You're talking about real people who are actually following us and interacting with us and things like that. So, it's one of those things that as we grow this thing, it takes a little time. It takes some effort. We're 79 episodes in, and so
we have about 101 followers.
Yeah, and so
which is good. We started out at none.
None, and so we're gonna keep growing it. And like I said, it's just about getting your name out there and getting the right person to listen at the right time.
Yep.
Apparently, we're good for marathons,
which is pretty cool.
Which is I'm like, I don't know.
I can't imagine listening to anybody talk during a marathon.
Yeah, I can't do I've tried podcasts on long rides and long runs and stuff like that. I can't do it. I need music. I need a beat or something. So either we are so entertaining that it takes the pain away whenever you're running a marathon, or we're so boring it dulls them almost to sleep.
I'm going to err on the side of caution and say we're pretty monotonous.
Yeah. So, it's pretty coe. But also we're gonna talk about doing some media stuff with a YouTuber, a pretty heavy G.I. Joe. I don't want to call him fanatic, but big fan, super fan, and so that's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah,
we're still working out those details, but let's get into what we usually get into. Where would you like to start? Marvel, DC, news, television, tech.
Start with DC.
You want to start with DC?
This is something that came up today on my feed about the Lex Luthor scenes and Jesse Eisenberg wanting to actually play Lex Luthor again,
which surprises me.
Yeah.
So, Justice League, the Blu-ray, comes out on Tuesday. It's been out on digital, but it'll be out on Tuesday. And so there's been a lot of press and things like that about it, and they are talking about the whether or not there were any Lex Luthor scenes cut during Justice League while whenever the director switch happened from Zack Snyder to Joss Whedon. And Eisenberg says, nope. There was the only scene that was there was the end credit scene. That was the only one. So
it's pretty interesting.
It is interesting because there were some talks that he was going to be more of a villain, and going to play a bigger role in Justice League early on, and so people wondered, about stuff. But I don't know how it really fits the whole Apocalypse storyline and things like that. And obviously with the whole Mother Box thing, because in one of the cut scenes in the extended edition of Batman v Superman, you see Apocalypse, and you see Lex Luthor and the Mother Box. You see them together in the Kryptonian ship that is in the extended cut. And so they were talking about whether or not he would play a bigger role in Justice League, but apparently not. So
well, and I when I watched it, I didn't know all of that going into it, but when I watched the movie, I really felt like it was him moving all of the pawns and making everything happen.
Moving pieces around.
Yeah. It's such a Lex Luthor thing to do, It doesn't have to be front and center, but he's making everything else happen.
Yeah. And it looks like that maybe they're setting that up further for a Justice League sequel with the Deathstroke scene and stuff that. Basically the Injustice League, essentially. And that will... the movie made enough. We'll get another one. We're going to get another Justice League, but it will see that what it'll be really interesting is what that will look like once you get, because the whole DC Films thing is kind of, who's going to buy what and who, and all of that, and
right.
So it will be interesting to see what that looks like. Going forward, but we'll get another Justice League. They've got to sort out the Batman stuff. Obviously, we still got to get Aquaman, Wonder Woman 2, things like that.
True. They've got a lot of work to do, kind of laying the ground wise.
Oh, absolutely.
To set something like that up.
Yeah, and speaking of Wonder Woman 2, I don't know how I feel about this.
Okay.
They've announced that the villain in Wonder Woman 2 is going to be Cheetah, which I'm not super familiar with that character. But it has been confirmed that Kristen Wiig has signed on to play Cheetah. Now, this is absolute typecasting in my brain. I admit that. This is just me. I only see Kristen Wiig in a comedic role.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters and Bridesmaids and Saturday Night Live and all of that.
That's gonna be a hard one, I think.
I don't know. Like I don't know what this. I don't know.
I think it's going to depend on how the character interacts with Wonder Woman. Like, what is the history behind that character? How does that character actually, how? Because it says villainous cheetah. Well, what does that really mean? Is she villainous, but she's sarcastic and humorous as well? Does she bring some darkness to her normal personality? I mean, I don't know.
It's a good question.
Interesting, though.
It's a good question. Like, I just don't. If you look at like Wonder Woman, the first one, like there was a certain humor and her being as naive as she was, Wonder Woman.
Sure.
And there was humor in that, and obviously Chris Pine was the humor in that. But I don't see dry, sarcastic humor like in a Wonder Woman movie. I just don't see it. But
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, I like to think that even though characters get typecasted or in our minds we set them as a certain type of actress or actor, I would like to think that they're pretty versatile. So we'll see.
I'm sure. Like she's also in Mother, which I haven't seen, which I've heard is pretty twisted.
Is that the horror movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
and so
definitely haven't seen that one.
So I haven't So obviously I'm not 100% on there, but I'm not the only one who's a little. I don't want to say concerned, but confused maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, Patty Jenkins has said, I have all these plans for all these things, and she was handpicked by the director,
which says something.
After, this is what I find very interesting, after Emma Stone passed. So Emma Stone was initially going to be in Wonder Woman.
Okay, and she didn't want any part of it.
I don't know that she didn't want any part of it. Now, granted, she's done the she was. She played Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And, going to the other side of the fence, the DC side of the fence is one thing. Maybe she doesn't want to do another superhero movie.
Could be.
Or she want to do that, and she has something else in mind in terms of, Gotham City Sirens. Or, something like she doesn't want to burn her DC bridge on a character like Cheetah. She would rather have something you can build a franchise around. I just think that, I don't know why, in the back of my head is she passed on Wonder Woman being a one-off villain to do something bigger in the DC universe.
I mean, that makes sense. It's a possibility for sure.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's got some Spider-Man plans that we don't know about. I mean, it is Marvel.
Yeah, but she
was Gwen Stacy. She could be Spider-Gwen.
She's dead.
But I'm saying in the Spider-Verse, she's not.
That's true. I mean, they are doing the Venom thing. They are doing,
and they've got the Spider-Verse. I want to say cartoon, but it looks more like anime.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I mean, if they did,
too.
You could certainly do a Spider-Gwen thing with Gwen's. I mean, yeah, that's a good point.
Spider-Gwen is in from the trailer that I saw of the new Spider-Man Spider-Verse anime thing that I think it's on Netflix maybe.
Okay.
Spider-Gwen is in there because it's the Spider-Verse. So, I mean, you got Spider-Man Noir and
I mean, Spider-Gwen would be big enough. I mean, to do a movie of.
Of
course, I mean, I think so.
I think it's got enough of a following too.
I do too. That's a good point. Maybe, but the fact that she was even in the running for something, she passed on the DC offer tells me that Marvel doesn't have her rights right now.
It's true.
Otherwise, they would be. Yeah.
Good point.
I don't know. I think there's something else going on. Something is.
Is that you or me that keeps doing that?
I think that's you.
My phone's way over.
I think it's your watch. Because it buzzes whenever it dings.
Well, it buzzes when it dings. Huh? All right. Highly technical.
Highly technical. It buzzes and dings and whatever. So we know Wonder Woman 2 is going to be set in the 80s Cold War setting, which is cool.
Okay. That is really cool.
So, I mean, that's going to be...
I wonder why they're doing... I guess because Wonder Woman 1 was World War One.
Mm-hmm.
So...
You can't really play the Nazi angle again.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is so you get 80s Cold War Wonder Woman, which is great. You know,
Or I guess it was World War II then, right?
no, it was one.
Was it?
I think it was one.
Okay.
I can't. Yeah.
Nazis were two.
Yeah, but people often Germany World War One and Two, people often put them together, even though like Nazis and Nazis, things like that. It's not.
Yeah.
They confuse the two in
Well,
in
it's
terms.
very easy because visually,
the imagery
they look
is
very
exactly,
similar.
and so. I'm not a history major, but I like the fact that 80s Cold War could be cool just because it's still kind of the sad thing is it's like the 80s 30 something years ago. God, I'm old.
Hey, I'm right there with you, man. All right.
But I like that they're doing that, and it kind of goes to the same thing that X-Men is doing. Is that's going to be the 90s, and it's going to there's just a lot of cool callbacks to. Especially like that X-Men movie that's happening in the 90s, I think that's Phoenix, is
I think so.
Is like 90s were the heyday for X-Men in terms of cartoons, stuff like that. So there's going to be some amazing call-outs for that.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I'm excited to see it. I mean, I think a superhero movie set in a time that is different than ours, I don't know how you go wrong with that.
Yeah, I agree.
No matter what it is, Wonder Woman, you name it. I mean, I think that was to me was the heyday of comic book stuff. So and
yeah, I agree.
90s as well. So
90s is when they were printing 9 million copies of X-Men #1, one of the largest print run ever.
Exactly. So I don't know. I think it'll be cool, and it speaks to the history of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, because I'm sure we're gonna get some, after the quote unquote death of Steve Trevor. We're gonna see how
niece's heart just broke.
What's that?
Your niece's heart just broke.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Quincy. Chris Pine is fine. Steve Trevor is not.
His character is not so well.
Yeah, he's still Captain Kirk for now.
Yeah.
But
for now.
But also in the DC movie universe, something that's pretty cool. There's been a lot of leaks popping out of the Shazam costume,
which is pretty cool.
It is straight up out of the comics, out of the video game Shazam. Like, it really is.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got Zach Levi as Shazam, which is... The one thing I wondered about, and I still kind of wonder about it, is, like, Shazam is essentially the same build as Superman. He's big, whatever. I don't want to say Zach Levi looks small in that costume because I think that's probably just the photo because they're not super high-res photos, stuff like that. But he just doesn't seem like overly powerful, super strong human being. There's some body sculpting going on in the suit because it looks like straight up like spandex suit, not like Superman where it's like a latex muscle suit, whatever. That looks straight up out of the comics and everything, and I mean, I like it. I think
to be fair, this is probably shot from like a mile and a half away with some giant lens on a camera, So there is a possibility that our perception of the picture, he may be a little bit bigger in person. I don't know.
No,
I'm just saying. I mean, there's a tree branch in the thing, so clearly somebody was hiding somewhere.
There's another picture. Whoops. There's another picture that is showing him sitting in a chair, which is a much more close-up picture.
Okay.
And but no, I think it's cool. I mean, it's for as fun as a Shazam movie should be, just because it's a kid who says Shazam and he's this superhero and stuff like that,
which is like every kid's dream.
Exactly. I like that they're kind of sticking to that source material pretty close. At least it looks like from a costume perspective. So there's
Definitely.
there's certainly that to look at. So yeah, there's been a couple pictures coming out. So we're hoping for an actual full promotional image at some point here soon.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's pretty cool.
I'm ready to see some trailers for it, honestly.
They just started filming. It may be a little while
I know,
for that.
saying,
But I am too.
It,
like now that you kind of get the imagery, you're like, oh, I just want to see the kid turn into Shazam.
Yeah.
That's what
exactly.
I want. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, that's what I hope they put that in the trailer. I just don't know that they will. Like, because that's kind of the whole thing of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you might hear him say Shazam.
That might be like the ending, and then it just goes black, like Shazam.
Yeah, and then
that'd be cool.
And then it goes to the logo.
And then everybody's
we're already developing trailers.
Everybody's like, no. Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
First Spaceballs 2, now we're developing the trailer for Shazam.
They
I'm
just-
telling you,
Hollywood
Warner Brothers,
needs-
just hire us.
Yeah, for real.
Like, just,
Call us.
yeah, call us.
We need your money. Call us.
Yeah, we need your money. So yeah, that's so I'm excited about that. You know, it's going to be.
Absolutely.
I hope that it's going to be one of those things, almost like, I don't want to say like Deadpool, but like you get, okay, no, perfect example is Black Panther. A character like Black Panther who was, people were familiar with, or Guardians is another good example, people were familiar with, but is never, not one of the showcase characters, not one of he's not one of the Trinity, you know, the Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, stuff like that, but might revitalize some interest in that character and in some of the things that DC is doing. So
I mean, I am telling you, after watching Black Panther, it made me want to go back and read as much of the original comics and material that I could find, just because it was such a good story.
I want to get that super. I assume they make that. There's that. We saw them at Planet. Those super thick volumes of comics. They had like X-Men, stuff like that. The omnibus. If they had one of Black Panther, like that would be.
You know it's coming.
Yeah.
If it's not already in existence, you know it's coming.
Yeah. You know, the 800 page, whatever it is, that type of thing.
Man,
so.
if I could have found all three of those Star Wars ones, I would have bought them on the spot. Like,
didn't we find all three though?
No, I think we only found 2.
Oh, we found number 2 and number 3.
Yeah,
and I think we only found number 1 is a bundle, and it was way overpriced.
Yeah,
I think something like that.
Something crazy.
So yeah, so hopefully we'll get some.
Ironically, I'm on a Facebook group called Omnibus. Like, that's all they do is
that
kind of stuff, trades and everything. And I've not seen one pop up there, but it's a worldwide, so I wouldn't really buy anything off of it anyhow.
Yeah.
But it's just cool to see people's collection. This one guy literally has a room dedicated to his books that it's like super high quality shelving with doors and everything. It's amazing. Yeah, it's very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Something else that's happening over in the DC world, Brian Michael Bendis had defected from Marvel over to DC. And a lot of people talked about he came to DC for Batman. But so they were at South by Southwest this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Chimley was posting pictures of him and the Tumblr, didn't realize it actually worked. And so he said, he's quoted as saying they sat on a panel with people like Jim Lee and Frank Miller and to talk about Superman. And he's quoted as saying, I'm just a little Jewish boy from Cleveland, and in Cleveland you grow up and you're told rock and roll and Superman were born here. Plus we have some decent pizza. Everyone thought I came to DC to do Batman, but all I wanted to do was Superman. So cool. What he's going to work on, there'll be a Man of Steel #1 that's coming out on May 2nd, a 6-issue event that's going to have different artists in every issue. Then he will do a reboot of Superman #1. Before he does, he will write Action Comics 1001. So Action Comics, 1000 is coming out next month.
It's on my playlist.
And 1001 is coming out July 25th. And he says, by the end of the Man of Steel thing, we're going to have a new status quo for Superman and his arrangement in the DC universe. This miniseries teases everything you'll need to know going forward. Plus, we'll drop a bomb on our last page that will hopefully have everyone talking about it even more so than his underpants, because that's always been the thing, is like they're returning to the trunks on the outside, that design. Yeah. He said, when asked about Lois Lane and whether Lois Lane may get her own miniseries, Jim Lee says, we can't disclose any plans, and if we had any plans, we wouldn't blink twice. And then he blinked twice. He said, all I can say is Brian has a lot of plans, is a tremendous writer, and all of our writers have this tremendous passion for the whole wide-ranging DC mythology. We'd be remiss not to address the desire of that fan base, to which Miller talked about how Lois is one of the stronger characters in the DC universe, as she threw herself off a building in the Richard Donner. They talked a lot about the Richard Donner movie, the original one, during this panel. They also talked about whether Crypto would return, his dog. And he says, Brian Michael Bendis says, to emphasize how important the Daily Planet is, I actually spent a day shadowing the Oregonian this week, which is a paper in Oregon.
Oh, okay.
He says, on top of journalism being under siege in a way it has never been in my life, a lot of that has happened to Clark. A lot of what has happened to Clark has happened to him. And he was sitting here after all, but Clark chose to be a reporter when he didn't need to do anything. Of all the jobs he could have, he needed this one. Why? Truth, there are simply parts of truth and justice that Superman can't punch his way through, but Clark can.
That's a really good point to explain his alter ego.
Exactly. And Frank Miller chimes in. He says, "Today is actually a wonderful case of where you can show his courage. On the old George Reeves TV show, when something's going down and Perry White says, 'Where's Kent?' Lois says, 'Clark, he's taking care of something.' He says, the mild-mannered Clark thing came later. I like a brazen Clark Kent." So it sounds like we're going to get a more, a slightly different Clark Kent, a little better, somebody who's, I don't know, maybe more in the thick of the journalism side. So we might get a little more with his alter ego, which could be very cool.
That could actually work out really well because Superman's always centered around Superman.
Yes.
Not necessarily Clark Kent. So that could be pretty cool to flip it the other way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like in Supergirl, they have, I just know him as Eggs from True Blood. The guy that plays Billy, is it Billy?
You talking about Jimmy Olsen?
Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah. Or James Olsen in Supergirl.
But like that's a whole other side of that character that you've never seen before. You know what I mean? Like you see him interact with Superman's cousin essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a whole nother, it's more of an aggressive stance on media and getting involved and that kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just cool.
And in Batman v Superman, they kill him in that opening scene.
True.
Like he's a CIA operative in the first Batman v Superman. He's the photographer that came with Lois to interview the Warlord.
That's right.
Yep, that's Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
And so he didn't last very long.
No.
Bendis has said in closing, he says, "Now more than ever, we need Superman. It's time. He exudes hope to all around him, but that's also a burden. We've seen it on other characters represent something so much larger, and now we'll experience that through him." So
very cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
A lot of cool things are coming with Superman.
Frank Miller looks pretty good in that picture too. Actually,
he does. He's not. I mean, for being 80, it's not bad.
Yeah, still got that kind of that arch, but looks
well,
like he's doing better.
When you've been sitting over a table for as long as he has, like, another DC news. Kevin Smith, who's been directing episodes of Flash and Supergirl,
they've been really good.
They've been some of the better episodes for sure. On a recent episode of Fat Man on Batman, he will be in front of the camera, along with Jason Mewes on the 17th episode of the series called Null and Annoyed. They will be playing security guards. He says. It talked about his apprehension. He didn't necessarily want to do it originally. He said, and honestly, I didn't want to do it because I knew it required that I wear pants.
Yeah.
He says, like, there's only so far in the world I can take my usual outfit, and believe me, I've stretched it to its limit, but I knew if I was playing a part where I wasn't being me, I had to be the security guard. I wouldn't be a security guard in jorts. They probably would have to cut that, so I knew I have to wear an outfit and stuff, which included pants. So I was like, oh, blank. I don't want to do it. But if I said no, I'd never hear the end of it from Jay Mewes, because he'd go, we had a chance to be on the Flash together, and you didn't take it. So, all right, we'll do it. So, coincidentally, in the scene, Jason Mewes has a couple lines. Kevin Smith, as he does, stays silent. So,
perfect.
Silent.
It's Jay and Silent Bob
as security guards.
Jay and Silent Bob as security guards.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's going to be pretty,
That's
fantastic. It is.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome.
And guys, we talked a lot about Kevin Smith on the last episode, and if you're not familiar with him, just look him up. You've probably seen something that he's been involved with, or maybe you are a fan, but his movies are dark, but they're funny. Don't watch them with kids.
Yeah, don't watch them with
kids. But they are definitely adult humor, and they're hilarious. And some are, I know Dogma and Chasing Amy are kind of harder movies for people to really get into for various reasons, but either way, watch them. They're worth it, and at some point you'll be like, wow, what was I missing? If you haven't seen it, I promise you.
Yeah, it definitely takes a different. Most people, they like Kevin Smith movies or they don't like, and there's very little in between.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. So
I mean, honestly, it's a lot. I kind of feel like he's one of those types of people that has so many different skill sets that he can direct, he can act. He's I don't know. He's a very talented person. So much so that he has, like friends in his movies such as Ben Affleck and Matt Damon playing multiple parts. It's just it's very cool. I don't know how to say it, but like Kev said, either you're gonna love him or you're gonna hate him. Or you might like a few and not like the others, and that's cool. But I suggest if you haven't watched them, at least watch them so you kind of have an idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah. In not so good news, Kevin Smith is joining the group of the chorus of people who are growing more and more concerned about Stan Lee. There's an article on the Daily Beast this morning that I read about what may or may not be going on with Stan Lee. Now, there were all kinds of allegations, so I didn't bring it to this episode because it is. We could spend an entire episode on that article. Like, it is in depth about what may or may not be going on. But people like Neil Adams, Rob Liefeld, Joe Jusko, Kevin Smith, people are concerned because long-time people who've been around Stan Lee most of this time are all gone. Like, his normal entourage is gone. And there's a video he'd been battling pneumonia, things like that. People are theorizing it is worse than it is worse than what is being said in the media, in that basically vultures are circling, and which is sad. And so there are people who are digging into this stuff now. We talked previously about the $1.4 million that went missing from his bank account. What I didn't realize, so they have forensic accountants working on that deal right now. One of the accountants that's working on it is Tobey Maguire's brother. He runs a forensic accounting firm. And so Spider-Man, his brother, is coming to help, because there's all kinds of things that are happening right now, having to do with his daughter and things like that, and his longtime handler Max. And I've never been a huge fan of his handler. I've seen him address people poorly multiple times, and there's some allegations against him about things that have been going on, which, if anybody had access to this, it's him.
Sure.
But
absolutely.
Like I said, it's all allegations, and it will all come out at one point or another. But, people like Neil Adams and like I said, Kevin Smith and a bunch of people are worried about Stan Lee because he's just not returning phone calls, things like that. And so, people are, for an icon as beloved as Stan Lee, if there are people around him or were around him for at least a short period of time that had nefarious intentions, the article made it sound like that maybe some of that stuff is getting sorted out. A lot of people said it happened right after his wife died,
sure,
and people just swooped in,
which makes sense.
Yeah,
that's
that is a classic con man move, It's not, Stan Lee doesn't, he's got a significant sum of money. And some of the article theorized that, why was he at cons signing every other weekend and stuff like that, when he really didn't need to. Some say he likes it for his fans. Some say he was just trying to make money. But it's, a lot of this will come out at some point. It would be unfortunate if it is as bad as it sounds, but
I'm sure it's worse than it sounds.
That is very likely. But for somebody as beloved as Stan Lee, there should be there's a significant amount of support around him in terms of people who would do things for him and help him and things like that. So more on that. We might go into that article next week a little bit, because I want to get some responses. I want to see if people respond to it,
sure,
and what their comments are, because we want to present all sides. Like I said, it's all allegations at this point, and so at least give people the chance to comment on everything. Something else that does have a boatload of money, and we talked about it earlier, is Black Panther. Mm-hmm. Black Panther's broken $1 billion at the box office. That's with a B. Had a huge opening weekend in China, and opened to, let's say, about $48 million in China, which puts it over $1 billion. Only the 33rd movie in history to reach that in unadjusted global grosses. Obviously, a sequel is already in the works.
Yeah.
That is right now it's sitting right behind. It just passed Dark Knight, I think, for the 9th biggest grossing movie of all time. It is sitting pretty close to Last Jedi. And it is not too far away from Avengers as the number one Marvel movie in terms of its overall grosses. Some people are thinking that it will take Avengers, and some people are saying that it will overtake Avengers and Infinity War won't hit it. Like, Infinity War won't get that high. I don't know if I believe that, because I think Infinity War has been, obviously, they've been building to it for so long that, I think that that's going to be a pretty epic event. But I also wonder if it's something like Avengers Infinity War, and you look at like Black Panther versus Avengers Infinity War. I think Black Panther brought a lot of people to Marvel movies who typically don't go to Marvel movies.
I would agree with that.
I think that's there. I think Infinity War doesn't have that same draw. I think that because it's been building for so long, if you haven't seen the Marvel movies, you're not going to go see it.
That's a good point.
And so,
yeah, I don't really know. I mean, it's like you said, Black Panther really brought a lot of people to a superhero movie for a lot of different reasons, and those same people may or may not be avid fans to where they've seen all of them. So I could easily see Infinity War not quite making as much of an impact financially as Black Panther.
Yeah. I also wonder, too, if maybe Black Panther doesn't invigorate the fan base a little bit, and people who have never watched Marvel movies are now going back and watching all the Marvel movies.
That's a very good point. I mean, they do show a little bit of how he became Black Panther in terms of tying it in with Civil War.
I would be really curious to see, they'll never do it, but if they would release like DVD sales or rental numbers for the Marvel movies post Black Panther.
Yeah.
Like to see if there's a bump in everything.
Yeah.
Because that would lead to that. I mean, it would make sense, but I mean, I'm stoked for Infinity War. Like we get another behind the scenes video tomorrow, and they're saying another trailer is coming. And so I imagine that will be the blah, 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 trailer, tickets on sale now. That type of thing. So
at least it won't be during Monday Night Football.
It will not be during Monday Night Football. No, it'll be March Madness.
Yes.
It will be during in the Final Four. It'll probably be the Final Four. Like if you think about it.
Yeah.
That's likely when they would do it.
Seems like that would make the most sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. Speaking of that, we did get our tickets for Ready Player One.
Oh, sweet.
So,
what day?
Wednesday night. So their site was broken. Regal, come on.
That's spring break? It's the week after.
I have no idea.
It's the week after.
I'm not in school.
You don't I am, sorry. Well, what day is it? Like, what is the date?
I don't know. 28th?
Okay, 18th?
It's
the week after spring break.
I don't know. So, yeah, Regal, fix your site. So, yeah, that you couldn't buy tickets to that, but if you did it on the app, you could do it on the app. So,
very cool.
So the crew will go. Pretty much everybody. Will be there. So that'll be pretty fun. We're excited about that. Like, that is definitely one of those movies that I'm gonna have to see multiple times because like
there's so much.
It's gonna be the first time I'm just gonna watch the movie and what I catch, I catch. The second time I'm gonna be watching what's happening outside the movie, like in the outer frames. I want to see everything that they kind of sneak in terms of that, and it should be pretty cool. I'm excited about that. I want to say I read the book a long time ago, or a while ago, but I really don't remember much of it at all. Yeah. And so I'm staying away from the book until after the movie because I don't want to set unrealistic expectations.
So I've quote unquote read the book or listened to it on audiobook, basically the same thing in my
Hi Joni, she's watching.
And so, for me, I'm just excited to see it because I finished the book already, and so now I know what is going on. And yes, I have incredibly high expectations for the story and the depth of it. But we'll see. I mean, the trailers look amazing. It looks like it is completely out of control. And I will tell you right now, there's a DeLorean. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we know there's a DeLorean. I mean, we've seen Iron Giant.
How do you not go see a movie that has a DeLorean at this point?
That's a good point.
Especially the DeLorean, not just a DeLorean.
The DeLorean. Yep.
From Back to the Future. The only thing that I'm not happy about is that it's not set where it is in the book. In the book, it's set in Oklahoma.
Where is it in the movie? Where is it? Cleveland?
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio,
Okay.
something like that. Which isn't probably too much different in terms of landscape, but
Yeah.
it's just the fact that it was set in Oklahoma. It was kind of like when we watched Logan, and I freaked out over the fact that they were in Oklahoma City at a casino that doesn't actually exist in Oklahoma City, but it was in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
We
to
don't
me.
get much love here in Oklahoma in the movies.
Unless it's Twister.
Unless it's Twister or maybe a Western.
Yeah,
And
that's
even-
a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
In modern movies, we don't get much love here in Oklahoma.
Fantastic point. Yeah. So that's probably the only thing that I'm bummed about, but that was disclosed on the trailer to begin with.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Speaking of Marvel, have you watched Jessica Jones?
Watched episode 1 last night, and then I had to go to bed. It was like midnight, which was actually like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm old and have a 5-year-old that wakes up at 6 no matter what.
I've also watched episode 1.
But it was amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
The problem was I had to have it so low because everybody was asleep. I couldn't hear everything.
It's so good. So there's in all the press running for Jessica Jones. Kristen Ritter's been on the press circuit doing stuff.
Yeah.
And
she's an author. Did you know that?
Is she?
In between season 1 and season 2, she has released a book. It's kind of like it sounds a lot like it's the same type of character as Jessica Jones, but it's her own novel that she's written. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it seems like it's very like she's pulling a little bit from the character that she plays in Jessica Jones, even though she's created this own character, this whole separate character.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, season 2 dropped. It's episode 1 is good. I haven't delved into anything else. But
everybody I've talked to says it's amazing.
During the press circuit, basically, they have said she came out and said, let me make sure I get the quote here. Says, I think Jessica was talking about the Defenders. She says, I think Jessica was pretty well received. People were excited to see her again, so that made us happy because Jessica is the next up. I've had a great time doing the Defenders, and honestly, it was such a good experience that I would even do it again. I don't think we are doing it again. It was never intention to do it again, but if I was given another opportunity, I would. My heart is with the show because the subject matter and because of the great drama that we get to do and the personal issues that we explore. For me, that is more of the content I enjoy as a viewer and as a performer. My heart is in Jessica Jones, but I did have a great time doing the Defenders with the guys. We had a good time. It is what it is.
Very cool.
So it sounds like there will be no Defender season 2. And honestly, I don't know where you would go with Defender season 2 anytime soon.
I don't know.
I don't know where you would get there.
I mean, because it would have to involve the Hand, and
or another big bad, which we just haven't got there
I guess
yet.
maybe Kingpin, but
Kingpin
I don't
maybe.
know. I don't know. Because I don't really know I'm not super familiar with the Defender storyline to know kind of what direction they would go next. But, I mean, they kind of wrapped that entire season, I feel like.
Yeah, the whole thing was wrapped up.
It's pretty much closed up and they all went their own ways.
Yeah. And they're going to, there will be crossovers in between the shows. Like you're going to see Daredevil and Luke Cage. Like we know that Iron Fist is in Luke Cage. We know that Luke Cage, I think, shows up in Jessica Jones.
I don't see how he doesn't. I mean, he was such a...
Yeah.
It wasn't even... The weirdest part about that is he wasn't a main character in that show, but he played such a strong role in that show, season 1. But I don't know how you don't bring him back the second time around.
Yeah. It depends where Jessica Jones goes with the story, and I just haven't, don't know what they're going to do with that.
So her book is called Bonfire.
Okay.
And literally the first sentence is almost like Jessica Jones. It says, it's been 10 years since Abby Williams left home and scrubbed away all visible evidence of her small-town roots. Now working as an environmental lawyer, so scratch that part, in Chicago, she has a thriving career as a modern apartment and her pick of meaningless one-night situations. And so
that's our title.
Yeah,
one-night situations.
There you go. I didn't know how to say that. So yeah, now I'm really embarrassed. Anyway, long story short, she gets a new case and it opens up all these old wounds, very similar to how Jessica Jones is kind of where she's at in the season from episode 1 that I've seen. Yeah. So very cool. Yeah. One night situations. Golly, why did I should have read that a little closer.
Oh, I love it. One night situations. Hey, that's family friendly.
I know, but I'm highly embarrassed that I said that.
Well, that's fine. Oh, also in the Marvel Netflix world, Infinity War, the Infinity War directors, the Russo brothers.
Can you talk?
I can't. I'm still laughing in my head about. I'm trying not to laugh about one night situations.
Quit saying it.
Infinity War. The directors of Infinity War, the Russo brothers, are producing a new superhero movie for Netflix. Keanu Reeves, John Wick himself, is in talks to star. They're talking about.
Okay, that is not me making that static. My watch is completely off my body.
I'm not hearing any static.
Okay,
So
maybe it is me somehow.
You're electric. I don't know. So it's a film called feature film called Past Midnight.
Mm-hmm.
It's being described as a new type of vigilante superhero story. So it almost sounds like John Wick with powers.
Very cool.
Rick Famuyiwa, who was going to do The Flash originally, he is on to direct. So the Russo brothers are producing, and they also wrote the script as well, along with T.J. Fixman. So. Keanu Reeves reportedly in talks to star in the lead role. No other casting decisions. Apparently, this script was a pretty hot commodity in terms of people bidding on it, things like that. Netflix won the rights to it. As we've talked about previously, Netflix is going to drop a significant amount of money on new content, and so. You know, if the Russo brothers, who did Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, and they're also doing the Avengers 4 movie, they said the next Avengers movie. I'm gonna see whatever they put out. Like that is a pretty good pedigree right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be good.
On the other side of the Netflix original content side, somebody who you may not think about is maybe signing an exclusive deal with Netflix is President Barack Obama and family. Maybe signing an exclusive deal for with Netflix, or reportedly in advanced negotiations. This is on Ars Technica, by the way. They haven't really talked about what the content's going to be. It's not going to be like a reality TV show or anything like that. The people close to it are saying that it will be something along the lines of they will produce inspirational stories. One other possible show idea talks about basically him moderating discussions for relevant topics, things like healthcare, climate change, voting rights. You know, Michelle Obama, who's always big about nutrition and things like that. Maybe something like that. I think the inspirational stories side would probably do better than moderate a town hall, basically.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, because unless you're producing it super fast or doing it live, like if you're doing it live, that's one thing. And I don't know that Netflix has ever gotten into the live game.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd like to see more of an inspirational story thing.
Yeah, I do too. I think he did. So Letterman's on Netflix now.
Right.
And so, you know, my next guest is or whatever.
And I haven't seen that yet. Is it good?
It's good. He said, I watched the one where he sat down with Obama. It's good. I mean, it is, you can tell that there's a lot of content there that they cut down to about an hour.
Sure.
And so.
I don't know how you couldn't.
Yeah. And Obama makes fun of Letterman's beard a lot. So, but. You know, there's also talk that Amazon and Apple were also interested in talking to him about content deals, but it's unlikely that if they're going to sign a deal with Netflix that they would it would be exclusive. So what I didn't realize was, and this is an interesting part of the article, is Netflix also just signed a deal with Ryan Murphy, who does American Horror Story and other popular shows on Netflix, for $300 million. This is also after Netflix signed Shonda Rhimes, creator of Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, away from ABC. Netflix is going to spend $8 billion on original content in 2018.
Wow.
That's a lot of $12 a month.
Yeah, they have money to burn.
Well, they've got about 118 million subscribers. And so you're getting $118 million per month.
True.
Or sorry, $118 million times 10 or 12 or whatever per month. like, yeah, you're rolling in money right now.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
for
granted, their infrastructure is significant, and they will have to spend significant money on this whole net neutrality thing. We know that's going to happen. So it is. In other news like that, Apple signed M. Night Shyamalan to produce a 10-episode thriller series for its streaming service.
So you can leave more confused than when you started?
Exactly. Like episode 1 is actually episode 10. It just goes in
watch
reverse.
It backwards. You can figure out why nothing makes sense until you watch episode 1.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or episode 10.
See, we're onto something. We are onto something.
Saying, they just need to pay us right now.
Pay me.
Hollywood. Holler at your boys in Oklahoma.
Exactly.
Get no love. And we'll set everything in Oklahoma.
We'll set everything in Oklahoma.
Tulsa, Oklahoma's the new Gotham. It's here.
It's here. Yep, that's very true. So yeah, this whole original content thing with Amazon and Netflix, things like that, is what pushes us closer and closer to people like DirecTV and Dish and stuff like that. No one is going to care about your television service anymore. Like,
well, and I mean, I think that's been coming for a long time. The technology just hasn't been there.
Yeah, and I think and I think now it really is. Like, we're getting to that point that it is definitely getting there.
The downside to that though is the cost of the internet usage is probably going to go up based on net neutrality.
It's likely because if they increase speed along with cost, I think you can kind of do that. But
yeah, I think that makes sense.
But you gotta do both. Like, that's the thing.
It can't just be cost.
Yeah, and I think for some people it will just be cost.
Well, yeah, because the infrastructure's not there.
Yeah, exactly.
I would agree with that. But I mean, I also agree that I think, despite the fact that I'm not, obviously we don't, in this group of two people, we are not for anti-net neutrality.
Yeah, we want it all to be neutral.
Exactly, because it benefits the whole. But I think both of us can agree that if speed rate goes up, so if we start talking about true, what is it,
gig to the house, gigabit,
or even faster at some point, then paying for it makes sense.
Yeah.
But just to raise it just because you watch Netflix or just because you bind down the bandwidth or whatever it may be doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. Cox has just released they call it Gigablast to the home more recently.
Do you think somebody just sits around like, let's call it this?
Yeah, I want to be that guy. Like, it's Hyper Giger X something.
Like, one night situations that you can watch every night.
Exactly.
It's like the people that make up education acronyms in Oklahoma. I swear there are people that just sit around and that's what they think about. Like, they get paid to come up with, we've got this like 5-letter training that we need to do, and I need you to concise it down to 4 letters.
Bacon.
That make absolutely no sense. Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Some of my favorite things, like on Reddit picks, it's like they acronym out like these random groups into stuff, and sometimes like the acronym is something wholly inappropriate.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like,
it's so easy though.
It is really so easy to do that, but it is definitely a So yeah, but it is an art. It is an artwork because you know that those people are like, I wonder if I can slip this past like the corporate people. Like, can I get
at some point that guy had a bad day and he was like trying to give it to the man, and he came up with
it's like the
acronym,
which we can't really go into in detail, but it's like the legendary first poster for Little Mermaid.
Oh yeah.
And what is one of the towers? You can Google that, not your kids.
Yeah.
One of the towers and to the point that if you find one of those original posters, they're worth money.
Yeah, sure. Just because it's so grossly inappropriate.
Yeah, and it's it is somewhat rare, and which I always find very funny. But
I do too.
I really do. In other news, movie news. So we've talked about the fact that there's going to be a Terminator reboot. We know that Arnold is back. We also know that Linda Hamilton is back, which is awesome. They have now attached another person to star in the reboot, and that is Mackenzie Davis. So Mackenzie Davis was in *Halt and Catch Fire*. She was in *The Martian*. She was also in *Blade Runner 2049*, which people start thinking, oh my God, is Blade Runner and Terminator, are they now the same universe, right? Mm-hmm. She's also doing something called The Turning right now. And she is set to play the lead in the movie. across from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which leads me to believe that Linda Hamilton, they said she's going to play a seasoned warrior. I almost kind of have this like, she's almost like a sitting on the throne type or whatever, has done the war. She might be part cyborg by this point. We don't know. But so this is the first time that that they've attached somebody other than those two people in there. Something else that I didn't realize at the time was that it's being done by Tim Miller. And Tim Miller was he worked on Deadpool, in that he originally had Mackenzie Davis wanting to portray Domino in Deadpool 2 before he left Deadpool 2.
Okay.
And so hers is a name and a face that we will see a lot of.
Absolutely.
Here coming soon. And so but this Terminator movie is a direct sequel to Terminator 2.
Sweet.
So it completely wipes out 3, Salvation, and Genesis. They didn't happen.
That really is unfortunate. Well, Salvation was... Wait, which one was the one that was... It set in the future, the true future?
Which one?
With Christian... Is it Christian Bale?
Christian Bale and Sam Worthington?
Yeah.
That is Salvation.
So now they're saying that didn't
Salvation
happen?
doesn't happen. Ignoring Terminator 3, Salvation, and Genesis.
That's lame, because the Salvation was one of the best ones I've seen, next to the original 2.
Well, the thing is, I don't know if it's going to, what they're talking about, they're ignoring those, the future movies. No, I don't know if it is like, they're going to insert them in the middle, and then they'll get to 3, whatever and whatever, but I don't think so. Like, I think Rise of the Machines, I think you just get rid of. Salvation, I'm here nor there. Genesis was...
I've not seen Genesis.
It was interesting. But I think this is a more direct, this is going to be a more direct sequel. So what's very interesting about this, which I didn't realize, so James Cameron will regain Terminator rights in 2019. Movie set to arrive in theaters July of 2019, producing the new film. The filmmaker originally sold the rights for the original film for $1 to Gail Ann Hurd, who now is a producer on Walking Dead and many other things. With the agreement, he would be allowed to direct the first Terminator movie.
Huh.
So for $1, like I will sell you the rights to this, but I'm gonna direct it.
So think about all that money that came in for spending $1.
Yeah. The first
crazy.
film earned $78 million worldwide, which isn't a huge amount. Of course, it's 19.
But back then, that was quite a bit of money.
Yeah, T2 grossed $519 million back then. Can you imagine now?
Terminator 2, I was in the prefabs. This is how I remember things. In the prefabs at my elementary school, so I was in 4th grade when that came out. Yeah.
When T2 came out?
I think so. I think we were in 4th grade, both of us.
So...
3rd or 4th grade, one of the two.
Billy Ray, one of the writers of The Hunger Games, not Billy Ray Cyrus, has done the most recent draft of the script, which was basically, it's a script based on ideas from Jim Cameron. So
that's crazy. I remember watching Terminator 2 while I was in LA. Like, I would never let my daughter watch this now, but I was watching Terminator and Terminator 2 as a kid, and I had Terminator 2 toys, that I wanted to take to school because I got them for my birthday one year. And that's why I remember when it came out. Does that make sense? Like, I can remember playing with it at, recess or whatever, instead of playing with my friends because it was just so cool. So this is going to be a good thing. I'm really excited about it. I think, while I'm not happy that they're kind of wiping out some stuff, I think it's cool to see something that follows the timeline a little bit more linearly.
Yeah, I think it'll be... they're talking about how in this movie they may talk more directly about how the character or whatever of Schwarzenegger became the Terminator, like
gotcha.
how they decided on that person, that
Like
body,
that look
what
or whatever.
exactly. Yeah. And so there was
Which would be cool,
there was a deleted scene out of, I want to say it was T2 or T3
Mm-hmm.
that talked about it, and it was so cheesy. I'm glad they did do it. They gave Schwarzenegger a Southern accent. Like, it was terrible. It's called the candy something.
Is it him doing the Southern accent?
It is him doing the Southern accent.
I've got to find that just because it sounds hilarious.
It's horrible on many levels. So
sounds funny.
Another franchise that I believe it's Sony or somebody's trying. Yeah, Sony's trying to get off the ground is based on a comic book called Bloodshot. Vin Diesel is now joined Sony's adaptation of the Valiant book. So Dave Wilson is set to direct.
Very cool.
Dave Wilson was a frequent collaborator with Tim Miller, we just talked about, for that one on Deadpool. So this is his first feature film. Bloodshot tells the story of a former soldier killed and brought back to life with technological upgrades, filling his body with billions of nanobots, allows him to be the perfect soldier by healing from injuries, shapeshift, even interact with technology. Almost sounds like Cyborg, kind of.
Please let Jason David Frank be Bloodshot.
Bloodshot.
That's the comic book that he's working on.
Oh yeah, but Bloodshot is Vin Diesel. Yeah.
Even though Jason David Frank is the character on all the comic books.
I believe that is the case.
Come on, guys.
Now, there's another book called Harbinger that is in the same Valiant. I believe it is in the same universe. And they're hoping to develop both films so they can bring them together in a book called, an event called Harbinger War. But there's no telling whether or not that will happen.
I want somebody to make a change.org petition and get Jason David Frank as Bloodshot in the Bloodshot movie.
The thing is, I mean, let's be realistic. Jason David Frank is good, but Jason David Frank does not have the cachet to get Sony to finance a movie. Vin Diesel does.
Okay,
he's just not a name. And as sad as that is,
it's just disappointing because I don't know that character would really be as popular as it was if it weren't for him.
Now, that's not saying that he's not going to be in the movie in some respect.
I'm just saying, though, like imagery-wise, you pick up a comic book up of Bloodshot, and you look at it, and you're like, that's Jason David Frank. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, there's zero question about who that is modeled after. You know?
Let's see here. So Neil Moritz is on board to produce, who's also worked with Vin Diesel on Fast and Furious, the first Triple X film, as well as 21 Jump Street, I Am Legend, and The Green Hornet, which most people don't ever think actually happened.
I liked the movie Green Hornet. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't really the Green Hornet I wanted, but it was the Green Hornet I needed.
Let's wrap things up and talk about some... Actually, before we talk about tech, let's talk about something very bizarre. I don't want to say bizarre. That is the wrong word. I apologize for that. Unexpected.
Okay.
So, at Comic-Con,
right,
there are constant parties and mixers and things like that. Some are professional networking and things like that. Some are, parties, stuff like that. So at Emerald City Comic Con, there was a bunch of industry mixers for women, for the LGBTQIA community. I'm unfamiliar with that. Industry people of color, things like that. These are actual mixer names. I'm not just saying this. This is the actual mixer names. So a guy emails them and basically says, hey, there is not he's like, I'm a white male. Where can I go to an industry mixer? Their response is, hi there. This is from Emerald City Comic Con. We do not have a specific industry mixer for your category this year. The media caught wind. Well, some media caught wind of this. And they're just like, discrimination is discrimination. Like,
I completely agree.
And while I think it's great that if you have specific industry mixers, if you're going to feel more comfortable, like around the people that you associate with and things like that, but you're excluding a somewhat large section of that industry. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of white males, us included, that are in this industry that could benefit from networking, that could help others in networking, and yet there was no industry-specific mixer for them that year at Emerald City. So I don't know if it was an oversight or if this was straight up legitimate. Like, this is like these are the only people we want to mix around this year. Like, I don't get it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was gonna actually interject my thoughts anyways, whether you asked or not. So good.
No, we're moving on.
I'm glad you care. Okay, so first off, I agree that discrimination is discrimination, no matter what side of it you're on. If you're excluding somebody, that is discriminating against them. Period. And while I think that there are definitely groups of people that have experienced far worse than this particular thing.
Agreed.
I think that discrimination is discrimination. You can't be for one thing and then against something else when it involves separating somebody. So that I'll just say that right off the bat. But I am going to err on the side of the Comic-Con that it was just a pure oversight for some reason. I think it was a poor response on their part. Just to be like, oh, well, sorry, this is what we did. You know what I'm saying? Like, just kind of shrug it off. Mm-hmm. But I'm going. This article wants you to believe that the way it's written is definitely from a conservative point of view, and it wants you to believe that they're being, attacked, and that may be true. I'm not saying that's not. I'm just going to err on the side of the Comic-Con and just say that it was a very unfortunate oversight. At least I hope, and as details I'm sure will potentially come out. I think we'll probably get a little bit more information about that. But, it's one of those things that equality is equality. And a lot of people think that equality means that everybody gets the same thing, when really what it means is everybody gets what they need, Mm-hmm. And I don't know. You just struggle with it, and I don't know. I mean, it makes me a little uncomfortable that their response was so minute, at least according to what is being said. Are you laughing about something I've said over there?
Yeah, somebody's commented on the Facebook feed. Yeah.
Who's somebody?
Oh, my friend Tammy. She's like, spoiler alert, Jared is the anonymous white male who reported this. I am not.
Most likely.
I am not. I was not at Emerald City Comic-Con.
No, I don't know, man. I mean, I think if we were in that position, I would feel a little bit disappointed with the show prep, primarily because, like you said, that's a very large demographic to completely exclude, even inadvertently, but then to take the other side of having so many other opportunities for other people,
Yeah.
And maybe it was intentional. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I look at it more from the, in this industry that is fairly dominated by white males. Mm-hmm. Like, if you are, preventing the networking of white males with other groups, you're not helping the other groups by being like, here's an industry mixer for people of color. Here's an industry mixer for the LGBTQIA community. Here's this. Like, you're not helping by putting everybody together. I get it that maybe they're more comfortable around, like I said, that group, and that's fine. But having an all-inclusive mixer and having been like, this is a mixer for everybody, so everybody can get together. Everybody, if they're talking about this inclusiveness thing, like, they have to include everybody.
Yeah.
And by keeping the largest demographic of this industry out, you aren't helping people by doing that.
Well, and I would agree that definitely doesn't. I would say that it probably adds a level of comfort, but it definitely doesn't grow the community in a way that it probably could be grown.
Yeah, because there are people like you and me and stuff like that who don't care about your group, what you're identified with, whatever. Like, we accept everybody.
I treat everybody the way that I want to be treated because that's how I was raised.
Golden rule.
To be completely honest with you, I could care less about any of those facts about you that we just read off as these mixers, primarily because if you're a person, you deserve my respect until you don't deserve my respect. So until you disrespect me in some way or wrong me in some way, I'm going to treat you like family because, for one, I'm from Oklahoma and that's how we treat people around here for the most part. But for two, that's just how I was raised. You treat the janitor the same as you treat the CEO, and you treat people just like you want to treat your family. Period.
It feels like there is an assumption of discrimination or something along those lines by the people at Emerald City Comic Con. Like, there's an assumption that the white, male, whatever, industry mixer, like, that they are the enemy. Like, they're bad. That is the, well, that may not be what they are assuming. That is the perception they're giving.
Well, and I would definitely agree with you that this article paints that perception.
Absolutely.
I hope that that's not at all what their intent is. And again, I just go back to, segregation is segregation. It really doesn't matter how you segregate somebody in terms of what it actually means to do so.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is a problem in our society, because what we do is we put people into boxes, and we put people into boxes for all kinds of reasons, and some are justified and some aren't. Like, obviously, somebody that has wronged you multiple times or has wronged somebody that you can put them in a box and just decide not to be a part of their lives and have them in your life. And that, to me, is just human nature, to protect yourself and those that you care about. But because somebody believes or feels or lives differently than you, putting them in a box and saying, like, this is your place to go, I get that in some ways that's a comfort zone for people, and I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But at the same rate, I think the way that you solve the flip side of that is this is one for everybody. Come here. And then you solve the conservative straight white man issue, and then you solve all of these other issues of putting people in a box, and if they want to go say hi over here because maybe their friend's over there or something, they're trying to support their friend, and they want to go be with other people to meet people outside of their norm. I think that's, to me, is what really it means to be united, is to get out of your comfort zone, even though it's very hard, and there are a lot of reasons not to. But maybe that's how they solve that problem, moving forward at least.
Yeah, I'll be very curious to see how they address this going into next year.
Well, and I think the part that troubles me the most is, based on this article, the only correspondence that we've seen, and I'm saying based on this article because this is purely one side of the story here, their response was minimal. Sorry, we didn't think of you guys. Tough. It wasn't like, hey, we'll do this, or hey, we'll organize this. But again, this is just one correspondence that we've seen. There very well could have been something else that occurred that we don't know about based on this article. So I don't want to condemn Emerald City because, for one, I've never been to it, and it sounds fantastic. And two, there is a possibility that one day we will be at it, and I definitely don't want to condemn them. But I think that maybe whoever was running the social media aspect of it might have been able to be a little more helpful.
They have been reached out for comment, and they have yet to comment. If they do comment on this type of thing, you will certainly cover that side of it too. And honestly, I think they should. It's going to, like,
I think it behooves them to do that.
Yeah, be like, oops, this was just an oversight.
It was a huge mistake on our part.
Yeah, just an oversight. It was, whatever. And that's, that
on the flip side of that, though, the irony of it all is, we see in the media often how things are so segregated, and how aspects of conservative American beliefs are being attacked and all of that kind of thing. And while I lean more to the side of, I don't necessarily believe that that's the case, I'm also not naive enough to say that that's not happening. I just don't see it that way.
Yeah.
And so this kind of plays into that whole commentary of white America being challenged and punished and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, I just, it's troubling, and it's only troubling because had we been there, it would have affected us.
True.
And I'll be honest to say this when I say it, because the first sentence I just said sounded like I only care if it affects me. It's a big deal because it would have affected us had we been there, but I would have liked to have seen an opportunity for everybody that was there to go and be with everybody if they chose.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly.
I want everybody to be, have the same opportunities. So, anyway, I'm going to stop before I get myself in trouble and say something that I don't mean and then have to correct it, because it's just, I just hope that I hope that it gets rectified.
Yeah, and I think that it will. I just, I hope Emerald City decides to comment on it, and then, like I said, when they do,
I think they need to.
We'll get there.
Yeah, I think they need to come out and say something for sure, even if it was just like, "Oops, our bad, we messed up."
Yeah,
I can forgive a mess up, and I think most people can.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly think their intentions were good.
Oh, I think so too.
And I just think it was like, oh, let's make sure all these groups are included and comfortable and things like that, which is great. You just forgot one.
And I mean, you have to think, there are some of those subgroups of people that they have a problem just based on their point of view or their lifestyle, they have a problem fitting in or feeling comfortable with other people. And I totally respect that. I feel, I walk into a biker bar, I'm going to feel a little bit weird. Now, that's like a very microcosm example, but, you know, you go with who you're comfortable with, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was a good move, just, you know, fell a little short.
Yep. In tech news, do you want to talk about hacked robots or why you should never take your computer to the Geek Squad?
Well, I think if you're doing something nefarious with your computer, you should never take it to the Geek Squad.
I'm going to talk about it in much more general terms in this article.
Okay.
So,
but I don't care. Let's go with Geek Squad. Why not?
All right. So, let's face it. A bunch of people, they pirate stuff off the internet. They do.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Lots of people do.
Lots of people do.
It's because everything's so expensive.
Exactly. So, an article that's came out on Engadget where it has now been revealed in some documents, things like that, that Geek Squad has been basically tipping the FBI and that they are informants for the FBI if they find things on your computer
that are questionable.
Now, there are certain things on a computer that if they are found, absolutely call the FBI and send those people to jail.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things that on the darker corners of the internet that absolutely.
And I think we can all, I think everybody listening can probably pick up on what he's talking about.
Exactly. There are some things that if you find them in the darker corners of the internet and they're on your computer and you trade and peddle in them or whatever, yeah, you're going to jail and you need to.
Absolutely.
What I worry about is the precedent this sets. Mm-hmm. That now your computer breaks and you had downloaded a copy of Justice League. I'm not saying piracy is good. It's not.
But it may not necessarily be worth going to prison over.
It happens.
Yeah.
And like here's the thing, piracy happens.
Sure.
I think we all in previous lives have done it. I
mean, we lived through the Napster and Kazaa.
Exactly.
You know?
We lived through the Napster days.
Yeah. So.
And I worry about the precedent this sets that, okay, so they find a downloaded copy of a movie. Boom. Tip to the FBI or RAA or whoever. You know, downloaded music, this, that, or whatever. Like, it concerns me from a privacy aspect.
Sure. Because you're trusting somebody to keep your information confidential.
Exactly. And I think that in trusting a $12 an hour Geek Squad technician who might get paid, and they're talking about the feds paying these techs or whatever, in some instances $500 at a time. If you do that, then they're going to go hunting for things on your computer.
It's definitely there.
There's nothing to say that they may not put something on your computer. Now there's not been a case or evidence that has ever happened.
Sure.
But let's face it.
It's there.
The possibility is there.
Yeah.
And so if you do take your computer to a Geek Squad or something like that, make sure to read the fine print. You know, here's the thing. If you're not doing anything nefarious on your computer or if everything's fine, take your computer there. Do I think they're the best people in the world? Absolutely not. But not everybody has an uncle, cousin, brother, whatever, who's a nerd who can fix your computer.
Right.
And so if that is the case, you know, just proceed with caution that you might be exposing things. Now, here's the thing. If your computer is acting funny, but you can get to your files, and let's say you have a file called passwords or something that has like your tax returns, for example, on your computer, for the love of Pete, will you just take that stuff off before you take them to the Geek Squad? Like, you know, move them off to a USB drive or something, because your tax return is all I need to assume your identity. Mm-hmm. Like, that's one of those things. So just be careful when you're doing that stuff. But just from a privacy aspect, like it does, the precedent it sets concerns me.
It definitely is concerning. You know, only from, like you said, people being influenced to do nefarious acts on your behalf and then blame you for it.
Exactly.
Not saying that that's, you know, like Kev said, nothing has been proven or even brought up about that, but it's there. You know, that's the thing is, like, here's an example of just how concerned I am about that stuff. we were at the movies and I had a free popcorn.
Oh
coupon,
yeah.
and the girl was like,
"This is a great story."
The scanner won't work. Can you just give me your phone and I'll go back there? And I thought, no, I'll just come back with you. And so as I'm going back there, the other hostesses didn't know that I was
Nick
following
about got
this gal.
tackled.
I about got tackled by these two young ladies, and I'm like, I'm just trying to pay my bill. That's it, you know.
I just want my popcorn.
Yeah. But it's like, you know, even something as simple as that some people wouldn't think would be a thing. You're handing somebody an unlocked phone.
Exactly.
They can do whatever they want on that phone and then bring it back to you. I'm not giving you my phone. I'm sorry, because my phone, as much as I dislike it, is unfortunately part of my life.
Yeah.
And I rely on it constantly. It's the same with a computer. We rely on computers constantly. So, you know, if you're not doing anything wrong, there's nothing to necessarily be concerned about. But just be aware that you're opening yourself up to a world of things that you hadn't thought about beforehand. You know, it's I don't know. It's an interesting time that we live in.
Yep. Now they're talking about how
Did Geek Squad, were they the ones that broke into the iPhone?
no.
Oh, okay.
The EFF is basically they filed a Freedom of Information Act.
Another acronym that I'm like, what in the world? The F.
The F, Electronic Freedom Foundation.
It sounds like they're cussing.
Yeah. F.
This is the F.
So they filed a Freedom of Information Act last year, and I found that Best Buy has been enjoying a quote, particularly close relationship with the agency over the past 10 years. Other documents also showed that the two entities work together so frequently that they developed a process for reporting suspicious content.
Jeez.
Yeah. Now, they do say that now in the article leads you to believe that they are specifically for certain types of content. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about necessarily like movies or music or whatever.
Content that you would expect that you would go to jail because it's a crime.
Yes. And so
a real crime.
Yes. Think Jared Fogle from Subway.
Yeah. That's a fantastic example.
They have a deal to call the feds. The FBI arrives to inspect it. If the agent agrees, that PC or hard drive is immediately seized, sent to the FBI nearest office, and then they would get a search warrant if needed after that.
Which for us is Oklahoma City, right?
FBI?
Yeah, in OSBI, isn't that the...
Yes, but I think there's a field office here locally.
Oh, is there?
I think
thought
so.
It was just Oklahoma City.
He says the EFF is saying that by paying informants, the agency is encouraging technicians to actively look for content. He says, case in point, there's a technician who called in evidence for a California doctor's case, reportedly found it in unallocated space on his computer, which means they went looking for it, files that were already deleted, things like that.
Which is a problem.
Yes, and so they're talking about how it might violate... And this goes to the privacy aspect. This might violate search and your Fourth Amendment search and seizure.
Protection against
it might violate your Fourth Amendment rights for unlawful search and seizure.
I mean, don't get us wrong. We're not saying like if you're doing something criminal, you shouldn't be caught. But at the same rate, if you're not doing something criminal, do you really want your stuff searched through because somebody's trying to get paid?
Trying to get paid? Yeah.
I don't. You know,
exactly.
Because if you don't have to search through those files, then you're unnecessarily interjecting yourself into my life to fix my computer.
Exactly.
And I mean that is the problem. It's not we're not disputing the fact that if you get caught for doing something you shouldn't be, you know, we're not disputing that. We're just saying that the likelihood that an honest citizen turning over their stuff to the Geek Squad, you know, you're opening your life up to somebody essentially.
And that could be an issue. Now, one of the most common reasons why you end up taking someone to the Geek Squad is something like malware, ransomware, something like that. That's one of the most common things. Well, there's been some testing going on regarding ransomware, and so have you seen you've seen this robot? There's this SoftBank Robotics, the humanoid robot. It kind of looks human. Yeah, so researchers at the security firm IO Active has successfully conducted a ransomware attack on the robot.
Think I Am Robot.
iRobot?
iRobot. iRobot with Will Smith.
So they're talking
Man,
about
I can reference his movies constantly because he's done so many nerdy ones that I like.
That's true. So its more popular sibling, which is Pepper, is the Pepper robot, is one that's like in malls and things like that. So they have successfully installed ransomware on the robot and got it to demand Bitcoin. It has also altered the robot's behavior, forcing it to say threatening messages.
Oh, so it's also like Chappie.
Yeah.
Awesome. This
So-
sounds like the robot I need.
So in the test case, it talked about you had to be on the same Wi-Fi network as the robot and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of things that make it way more difficult to do. But
Yeah, but if robots really like personal assistant robots similar to iRobot start becoming a thing, is it really that hard to do? You know what I'm saying?
well,
Like,
yeah, it depends.
I realize that's hopefully very far in the future.
It's the. I mean, it would not surprise me at some point that if Apple gets into that game, the Apple OS, the iOS is so locked down, you can't do anything. Like that's why you have to jailbreak your phone to do unauthorized apps. I mean,
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
but so
That's terrifying.
they have found 50 vulnerabilities in different robots from different vendors last year. And so the ransomware attack was more of a proof of concept on anything. And so the company has not yet said that they have fixed the flaws, but I'm sure that they are in the middle of that. It is only a matter of time before somebody gets Alexa to curse at you.
What is this deal about?
Right
them
now,
laughing? What
it's
is the
just
deal?
laughing at you.
Like randomly, no less. But why?
Amazon has not said why.
Because they don't know.
Because they don't know. But yes, there have been multiple reports of Alexa, Amazon Echo users, which uses the Amazon Alexa voice assistant, malfunctioning to the point that it just starts laughing really creepily and for no apparent reason. So Amazon is somewhat saying that it is somehow the Alexa laugh. You can say Alexa laugh is. I wonder if we just set off anybody's Alexas.
We need to go try this with yours.
If you say Alexa laugh, that it will laugh. Like it will do that. And of course, it's a robot, so it does it kind of creepily, anyways. So they are disabling Alexa laugh. And because normally they say, sure, I can laugh, followed by laughter. So they're changing that basically that launch phrase to Alexa, can you laugh? Which will have much fewer false positives. So on another note, Amazon, Alexa's laugh isn't the only thing. This is a great article on CNN that has been malfunctioning. Other users have claimed Alexa has stopped responding to requests altogether. And that one
She got
Amazon
mad at us.
and then one Amazon Echo suddenly began listing names of local funeral homes and cemeteries completely unprompted. Yeah.
Well, Alexa devices have already been used in evidence in murder cases.
Yes, they have.
Oh my gosh, this is terrifying.
Yes, they
This
have.
is why we don't have one in my house.
You can purge recordings.
Not because
on it.
I'm going to commit a crime, just it's creepy to me.
Yeah, so let's pop into this real quick. This article is from April of 2017. This is from CNN. A high-profile attorney has taken over as lead counsel for an Arkansas man
interrupt your video
accused of
to bring
killing
you a
his friend
Geico
and a
message.
police officer
Gotta love those
after a night
Geico
of drinking
savings.
and football.
Got that right, little buddy.
We interrupt this message to bring you
Now,
another
Nancy
Geico
Glosson
message.
wrote this article.
Geico can help you with homeowners insurance, too.
They've asked
call that
the
a
Amazon
hole in
Echo
one.
We
to
interrupt
be
this
used as
message to bring you our
evidence.
logo.
All right, YouTube's going up. All right, guys. Now we're actually going to start recording. See, none of this stuff happens beforehand. Like we all have to do it all at once, and it takes a minute to get going. Now
That's
that
how
we're
it
live, now that we're doing live all the time, it takes a minute to go here. So, and our tables are really full right now of stuff. If you notice, we are
I mean, a little.
a little
they're-
bit.
they're
We're a
a little
little
full.
bit better lit. You're a little dark still.
Is it my hat?
I don't know if it's your hat. Turn it backwards. Be a gangster. There we go. It's better than it was, but we're still dealing with some shadows.
I can't be live in the world doing that. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to turn my... Well, that's worse, I think.
That would have been something I would have done years ago, but
Years and years
I'm
ago.
going to do it now.
So, okay.
How about now?
That is right on your face. Yeah. Lighting is a real pain. We need Mandy and Danny again.
Is that good?
Let's see. That's better. Good enough. All right. We're actually going to... That's even worse. Where were you on the night of... da-da-da-da-da-da? So,
Oh, it's for a minute I thought I was pulling it off the table. It just turns.
okay. All right. Actually going to start the actual recording now. Here we go. Good afternoon. Almost evening. Daylight savings. Whatever, everybody. This is Gather the Nerds, episode 79. I'm Cav. That's Nick.
What's up?
We're messing with lamps, trying to get this
I
whole
love lamp.
lighting thing right. I love lamp. Trying to get this whole lighting thing right. We need Mandy and Danny again, or we need more lumens is really what we need. We need more lumens.
Is that worse? Better? Better? Worse?
Worse. Go back to plan A. Shoot up. So, good enough.
All right.
So we're still messing with this, but you're not nearly in the shadows as you were last time.
I am the shadows.
You are the shadows. So, yeah, episode 79. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. So I'm watching the
Yay.
feed right now.
Is that weird to watch yourself as you're like
Oh,
doing? And I just got a new water heater, so there's no telling what technology's on that.
exactly. It is, yeah, it's definitely a scary time. So all the articles and everything, and this is on every podcast post that we put on iTunes, but just so you're aware, every article we reference, things like that, can be found on gatherthenerds.com. We post that whenever we post every episode, so all of our sources are cited. We paraphrase a lot, but sometimes we'll read verbatim quote, for especially when people are quoted. So all that stuff is there, giving credit where credit's due. But that is in the notes of every podcast episode. And that just points you to go to our website, gatherthenerds.com, that has all the source for everything. Everything else you can hit on Instagram, Facebook, at Gather the Nerds, iTunes as well. That's
Yeah, give us
iTunes.
some ratings if you
Give us
don't
some
mind.
ratings. Those are the things, that are important to us. We know that it's kind of a pain. We get it. Like, we live on our phones and things like that. And, giving iTunes ratings isn't the most straightforward thing sometimes and stuff
Especially
like
on a
that,
phone.
especially on a phone. So we certainly appreciate everybody who does that. So you're out next week.
I am.
He's having his wisdom teeth out.
Yay!
Sorry, that was a HIPAA violation.
No, not really.
Technically it's yeah. So
I told you about it, so no, it's not.
yeah, but I just told everybody about it.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm getting my wisdom teeth out. So there, it's not violated anymore.
so you will be out. So we might do a couple of things. Church and I might do just a little box break or something like that. Maybe a short episode, something like that. But we wish you all the best.
Okay.
It
Well,
is.
thank
It
you. I
is not
appreciate
as. It is not as terrible as it sounds. I've had it done.
I hope, because the guy really told me that it's going to be terrible, and he also followed that up by saying, "I like to tell my patients the worst case scenario,
Yeah,
so it's not so bad." So I'm really hoping that it's not so bad. But
I think you'd be all right.
they told me basically for the next, starting Friday when I have them out, for the next, week and a half to 2 weeks, it's milkshakes and potatoes.
But you can't use a straw.
No, but I mean, just it's ice cream
Yeah.
and potatoes basically. So I guess Joan got some sweet potatoes. I know that.
Yeah, you can do.
She said the lady said regular potatoes, but I'm just like, if I'm gonna eat a potato, I'm gonna eat
Yeah.
something that's a little better for me than just a white potato. I'm gonna eat a sweet potato.
Sweet potato.
I can put some cinnamon on.
I was
it.
gonna say put some cinnamon
Yeah,
on there, some butter.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has
So
been.
it'll be fun.
Yes,
it'll
we'll,
be fun.
We'll keep you posted. I wish we could almost Facebook Live it, but we can't.
Yeah, that would be a HIPAA violation.
I guess we would.
I will say when we do get back and we're here, I may still be a little swollen. So we'll see.
Yeah,
because they told me I'd be swollen for about 2 weeks probably.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah.
Harper's a little concerned that I'm going to look different.
Oh,
Because-
really?
Yeah, because I totally forgot about this until you brought it up. But we were coming home maybe Wednesday or Thursday, and she says, "Daddy, when are you getting your teeth out?" And I said, "Oh, it's next Friday." And she goes, "Oh." I said, "Well, Harper, you're not even gonna be able to tell that they're gone. Like, they're in the back of my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm going to look the same." And she goes, "Okay." Like,
Did
I
she think like all your teeth were coming out?
I'm really not sure what she thought, but I'm thinking from a 5-year-old's perspective who sat in and looked at my x-rays, 'cause she
Yeah.
was with us during the consultation, watched me get examined by the doctor. I'm thinking she must have thought that I was going to lose all of my teeth.
Gotcha.
And, instead it's just the 4 that you can't see that I can't even see. I can just feel them.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Gather the Nerds episode 79,
That's
One
right.
Night Situations. Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, all that stuff. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But until next time, I'm Cav. That's Nick.
See ya.
See you guys. Bye.
One night situations. What was I thinking?
I don't know. We're still live on Facebook
That's okay, I
and
don't
YouTube.
care. That's
It's
hilarious.
so great. That
Bye, guys.
that is an all-time title right there. Bye, you.